Hello, friends and family. Welcome to a special 250th anniversary edition of Eyes to See, Vision Beyond the Narrative, a little show I like to do once a week where I talk about current events, politics, and deeper issues around that. This special edition, as we approach 4 minutes till midnight in the Mountain Time Zone for the 4th of July, 250 years since we signed the Declaration. I wonder what time of day they signed it, because I assume it would be in the evening. Anyway, I got a nice little paper for you. We're going to talk about this country because what better time than now? Hopefully you got to see a bunch of those flyovers in D.C. Those were sick. Okay, so this is essay number 10. I don't know what episode we're on. 19? And we're titling this one, The Patriotism of Truth. Now, if you find it interesting, go back and watch all the other papers that I've written. Read them. Or listen to them. Sorry, I'm reading them. And you can get an idea where we've been, where we are, and where we ought to be. So here we go. Essay 10, The Patriotism of Truth. America is approaching her 250th birthday, and concurrently the World Cup has reminded us of something every normal human being used to understand without needing an explanation. People love their own country. They wear their colors. They wave the flag. They sing the songs. They cheer for men who carry the name of the nation on the front of their jersey. The Argentine does not apologize for Argentina. The Mexican does not blush at the sight of the Mexican flag. The Brazilian does not need to begin every celebration with a lecture about Brazil's failures. Even smaller nations, the ones without the money, power, or global machinery of empires, stand up with a kind of wild and beautiful pride when their team steps onto the field. Cabo Verde can show up on the world stage and its people can rejoice simply because their players are from the same place as them. And they had a valiant effort today against the world champs. That should not be strange. It should be ordinary. It's natural for people to love the place that formed them, sheltered them, named them, and gave them a story that's bigger than themselves. A man who has no affection for his country has lost something human. The overeducated man is often the first to become embarrassed by ordinary loves. In his sophistication, he can speak fluently about systems, theories, power, and history, but he has forgotten the simpler duty of honoring the ground in which his fathers are buried. It's not the farmer, the builder, the soldier, or the working man who becomes embarrassed by love of country. It's the overeducated man who has lived too long in abstractions and ivy towers, until the soil beneath his feet feels less real to him than the clever theories passing through his lofty head. In America, though, the simple affection of the ordinary hardworking man has become suspicious. A man can wave almost any foreign flag in American city and be praised for honoring someone else's heritage. But if he waves the American flag with the same open gratitude, a certain portion of people immediately see that man as the problem. Patriotism is treated as dangerous. National pride is treated as primitive. Borders are treated as cruel. Assimilation is treated as oppression. Love of country is spoken of as though it were always one careless step away from the hatred of everyone else. And that is absurd. The patriotism of truth refuses two lies at once. It refuses to pretend America is innocent, and it refuses to pretend America is not worth loving. A childish patriot flatters the country and calls it loyalty. A resentful critic curses the country and calls it intelligence. Neither one is serious. The first man will not tell the truth about America's sins, and the second man will not tell the truth about America's gifts. Both are dishonest in opposite directions. A mature patriot loves his country the way a grown man loves his family. He does not pretend there's never been failure, cruelty, stupidity, corruption, betrayal, or shame. Every family has graves, and every nation has blood in the soil. But he also does not stand on the porch of the house his fathers built, eating from the table they left him, protected by the roof they raised, and spend his whole life sneering at the men who made his shelter possible. That is not moral courage. That is parasitic contempt. I do not come to this question as a tourist. I'm the 15th generation born or buried on the soil of the United States of America. My fathers came from Ireland and Scotland in the 1700s early. On one side, they were farmers. On the other side, they were loggers and builders. They worked the ground, the trees, the weather, the tools, the animals, the seasons, and the brutal, ordinary facts of life. They did not inherit a finished country with climate control and paved roads and grocery stores glowing under fluorescent lights. They helped build the thing we now take for granted. They cleared, planted, cut, hauled, raised, repaired, buried, prayed, fought, married, multiplied, endured, and handed something forward. That does not make me better than another man. It does make me responsible. Inheritance is not a trophy to polish while doing nothing. Inheritance is a debt. A man who receives an inheritance without gratitude becomes spoiled. A man who receives it without duty becomes useless. A man who receives it without despising the people who left it to him becomes something worse than useless. He becomes an enemy of memory. America was built on certain moral assumptions that modern people now enjoy while pretending they can be discarded. This country is not built merely on land, money, ambition, industry, or military force. Those things mattered, but they were not the foundation. The deeper foundation was a Christian moral imagination that understood man as fallen, freedom as precious, government as dangerous when unrestrained, and rights as something higher than permissions handed down by rulers. Our forefathers did not fight tyranny because they believed men were naturally wonderful. They fought tyranny because they knew men were not wonderful, especially when concentrated power allowed their worst appetites to wear legal as their clothing. That is why American freedom has never meant mere permission. It was not supposed to mean that every man does what is right in his own eyes, while demanding others pay for the consequences. Liberty without self-command becomes appetite without a flag. Rights without duties become claims made by children. Compassion without judgment becomes a machine for rewarding destructive behavior. A republic cannot survive on slogans about freedom when its people no longer have the discipline required to remain free. This is where patriotism becomes more than ceremony. It's easier to cheer during the national anthem. It's easy to enjoy the fireworks. It's easy to say America is the greatest country on earth while living like a consumer inside a civilization built by better men. Real patriotism asks more. It asks whether we are preserving the conditions that made this country worth celebrating. It asks whether we are raising children who understand freedom or merely children who demand options. It asks whether we are becoming citizens or only customers. It asks whether we still possess the courage to say what belongs here and what does not. That question cannot be avoided when we talk about immigration. America has always received people from other places. Many of them came with nothing but a hunger, courage, memory, and a willingness to work. They came legally. They learned the language. They respected the laws. They built businesses, raised families, joined churches, served in the military, paid taxes, coached teams, fixed roofs, opened restaurants, poured concrete, harvested food, drove trucks, and made this country what it is. They did not come to erase America. They came to be a part of it. That kind of immigrant is welcome. More than welcome. He is a part of the American story. One of my best friends is a first-generation American. His father came from Mexico. He loves his country the same basic instincts that I do. He understands what America offers because his family knows the difference between America and the place they came from. He remembers what the old country was like and why he left. He does not need a graduate seminar to understand gratitude. He knows that a good country is not something to exploit, mock, weaken, and then bill for services. It's something to join, defend, improve, and hand forward. That is the distinction our cowardly public conversation keeps trying to erase. The issue is not whether a person's grandparents came from Ireland, Scotland, Mexico, Italy, Poland, Vietnam, Nigeria, or anywhere else. The issue is whether a person who comes here intends to become part of the American people or merely use the American system. The issue is whether he brings gratitude or contempt, whether he brings work or entitlement, whether he honors law or studies loopholes, whether he wants to build or only take, whether he teaches his children to love the country that shelters them or to resent it while enjoying its protections. A foreigner who comes here lawfully, assimilates, contributes, and loves the country is not the problem. A foreigner who refuses assimilation, exploits compassion, abuses the law, drains public resources, imports old hatreds, mocks American identity, and demands that the country bend around its refusal to belong is absolutely a problem. Not because of his blood, not because of his accent, not because of his skin color, not because of his food, music, memories, or ancestry. He is a problem because he has entered into a house that he does not intend to honor. No serious country can survive that forever. The word assimilation has been treated as though it means erasing a person's heritage. That's a lie. Assimilation does not mean a Mexican family stops making Mexican food, burritos. It does not mean an Irish family stops remembering Ireland. It does not mean a Vietnamese family forgets its grandparents or a Nigerian family abandons its stories or a Polish family stops honoring the old country. Human beings carry memory with them. This is good. A country becomes richer when loyal people bring their gifts into a shared national life. But assimilation does mean something. It means you join the country you entered. You learn the language well enough to belong to your neighbors, to be a neighbor. You respect the laws. You adopt the basic civil loyalties of the place. You do not demand that the host nation apologize for expecting you to become part of it. You do not keep one foot in resentment and one hand in the benefits. You do not teach your children to despise the flag that protects them. You do not treat America as an ATM with a guilty conscience. A nation is not merely an economy. It's not a shopping mall with a military. It's not a benefits office with borders. A nation is a people with shared inheritance, common memory, a moral imagination, laws, customs, language, duties, sacrifices, and obligations that stretch backward to the dead and forward to the unborn. When a person enters that nation, he is not simply changing locations. He is entering a moral household. And if he hates the household, he should not move in. This should be obvious. If a man moves to Japan and hates Japan, normal people understand that something is wrong with him. And the Japanese will kick his ass out in 3 shakes of a lamb's tail. If a man moves to Mexico and despises Mexican identity, he is not brave. He is an arrogant guest and will also be appropriately treated. If a man moves to Argentina and sneers at the Argentine pride, he has misunderstood their hospitality. If a man moves to Cabo Verde and tells the people their national pride is backwards, they would be right to tell him to get that out. Why should America alone be expected to treat national self-respect as a sin? The answer is that America has been taught to confuse compassion with self-destruction. We have cultivated a toxic empathy that cannot distinguish between helping a person and surrendering a country. Compassion, when severed from judgment, becomes a weapon against the people who practice it. It begins by asking citizens to care for the vulnerable. That is noble. Then it demands that citizens ignore fraud, disorder, lawlessness, dependency, non-assimilation, and contempt, because noticing those things might sound unkind. At that point, compassion has stopped being mercy. It's become emotional blackmail. A country that cannot enforce its borders is not compassionate. It is negligent. A country that cannot remove people who breaks its laws is not generous. It's unserious. A country that cannot require assimilation is not tolerant. It's dissolving. A country that asks its own citizens to remain silent while the terms of national life are rewritten around people who never consented to the inheritance, that's not virtuous. That's cowardice. This does not mean cruelty. It does not mean hatred. It does not mean treating foreigners as less than human. That is the cheap accusation thrown by people who do not want to make distinctions. Judgment is not hatred. Boundaries are not hatred. Law is not hatred. Deporting somebody who entered illegally or abused the hospitality of our country is not hatred. Refusing to let compassion become a suicide pact is not hatred. A man may have sympathy for another person's hardship while still saying, "You may not break into my house," and call my locked door immoral. The same principle applies to nations. There's a difference between hospitality and surrender. Hospitality welcomes a guest into an ordered home. Surrender lets the guests take over, rearrange the house, insult the family, empty the pantry, ignore the rules, and then accuse the owner of cruelty for objecting. America has been too willing to accept this moral inversion. Citizens are lectured for wanting borders. Taxpayers are shamed for noticing abuse and fraud. Parents are told to celebrate disorder as diversity. Communities are expected to absorb consequences they were never allowed to honestly debate. The people most insulated from the damage then congratulate themselves on their compassion. That is not virtue. That is luxury belief with a security detail. The patriotism of truth must be able to say all of this plainly. It must be able to say America is worth protecting. It must be able to say citizenship means something. It must be able to say legal immigration and illegal entry are not morally identical. It must be able to say assimilation is not optional if a country wishes to remain a country. It must be able to say that gratitude is a civic virtue and contempt is a civic poison. But this judgment must also turn inward. If we are going to ask immigrants to love America, then Americans had better recover the reasons America is lovable. We cannot expect newcomers to assimilate into a people who no longer know what they are. We cannot ask others to honor a flag we are too embarrassed to carry. We cannot demand gratitude for an inheritance we have failed to explain to our own children. A nation that forgets itself should not be shocked when strangers fail to respect it. That may be the deeper wound. The attack on America is not only coming from the outside, it's also coming from within. We have cultivated a class of people who can explain every American failure with religious passion and every American virtue with bored suspicion. They know how to condemn the country, but not how to love it. They know how to recite the sins, but not how to honor the sacrifices. They speak constantly of justice, rights, liberation, equity, democracy, but often with no gratitude for the civilization that gave them the freedom to speak at all. Criticism of America is not the same as hatred of America. A patriot must criticize his country when criticism is deserved. But criticisms without gratitude eventually becomes contempt. And contempt is not a plan for reform, it's a spiritual posture. It doesn't want to repair the house. It wants to be seen standing above it. That kind of contempt is poison. It teaches young people that their inheritance is shameful. It teaches citizens that their own country is uniquely wicked. It teaches immigrants that assimilation in America would be a moral downgrade. It trains the population to view patriotism as suspicious, while every other people on earth is allowed to love its own home without apology. The World Cup exposes the absurdity. We watch nation after nation cheer itself with no embarrassment. The people understand that belonging is not bigotry. They understand that a flag is not merely fabric. It is memory. It is fathers and mothers. It is language and soil. It is victories and griefs. It is songs sung by people who are no longer alive and children who do not yet understand why the adults are crying. It's not perfect. Nothing human is, but it's theirs. Why should America be not denied this ordinary human affection? Why should the American flag be treated as dangerous in America while every other flag is treated as beautiful? Why should American citizens be asked to apologize for wanting their country to remain recognizable? Why should people who built, defended, farmed, logged, paved, taught, preached, repaired, fought, buried, and sacrificed for this country be told that their love of home is somehow less noble than everyone else's? No, that bargain should be rejected. 2 more pages, hang in there. America is not merely an idea, though ideas matter. America is not merely a government, though government matters. America is not merely a set of documents, though the documents matter deeply. America is also a people, a place, a memory, an inheritance, a duty, and a way of life that must be guarded if it is to be given to the next generation. A nation that cannot say we cannot govern itself. A nation that cannot distinguish between guest and citizen cannot remain coherent. A nation that cannot require loyalty cannot defend liberty. A nation that cannot protect its borders cannot protect its people. A nation that cannot teach gratitude will raise consumers instead of citizens. And consumers do not preserve republics. They spend them. So yes, let the World Cup remind us what people everywhere seem permitted to know. It's good to love your country. It's good to cheer for your people. It's good to honor your dead. It's good to protect the inheritance. It's good to welcome those who come honestly, lawfully, gratefully, with a desire to join and to help. It is also good to say no to those who come with contempt, fraud, lawlessness, and no intention of becoming part of the country they entered. That's not hatred. That's judgment. The patriotism of truth is not blind. It sees America's failures. It sees the broken promises, the hypocrisies, the corruptions, the cowardice, the greed, the foolish wars, the political theater, the bureaucratic rot, the betrayal of ordinary people by those who claim to represent them all. I see all of that. You see all of it. But it also sees the graves of those that came before us. It sees the farms, the churches, the workshops, the logging camps, the railroads, and the small towns. It sees the dinner tables, the mothers, the fathers, the soldiers, the craftsmen, the builders, the preachers, the teachers, the men who worked until their hands broke, and the women who held families together when the world was not perfect. It sees the Declaration, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the long argument over liberty, the hatred of tyranny, the belief that the state is not God, the stubborn conviction that human beings are not property of kings. And seeing both, it refuses to curse what should be loved. Home stretch here, last page. America does not need flattery. She has had enough speeches. She does not need sentimental patriotism that shows up for fireworks and disappears when duty calls. She does not need citizens who chant freedom while living as slaves to their own appetites. She does not need immigrants who exploit her mercy while rejecting her identity. She does not need elites who sell compassion while outsourcing consequences to working neighborhoods. She does not need cowards who know the truth but are afraid to say it. America needs patriots who can tell the truth. Patriots who can say to the foreigner, "Come lawfully, work honestly, join us, and you're welcome." Patriots who can also say, if you despise this country, if you refuse its laws, if you exploit its compassion, if you will not assimilate, then you do not belong here. Patriots who can say to fellow Americans, stop apologizing for loving America. Patriots who can say to themselves, if I inherited this country, then I owe it more than just complaint. That's the patriotism of truth. not worship, not hatred, not nostalgia, not contempt, not gratitude with open eyes. Love without lies. Oh, I said not. Not hatred, not nostalgia, not contempt. Gratitude with open eyes. Love without lies. Judgment without apology. A willingness to receive the inheritance. Repair what is broken. Defend what is good. And hand it forward without shame. If you are here, then be here. If you come here, come honestly. If you love another country more, then go under... Let's start that one over in case we need to do a short. If you love another country more, then go live under its flag, and may God go with you. Ooh, may your God go with you. Might as well say that. Let's start that one over in case we need to. If you are here, then be here. If you come here, come honestly. But if you love another country more, then go live under its flag, and may your God go with you. But if you remain here under the shelter of this country, protected by its laws, fed by its economy, enriched by its freedom, and blessed by the sacrifices of the people you will never meet, then have enough decency to love the place. Join the people, learn the language, honor the law, build instead of take, carry the flag without embarrassment. America is not perfect, but she is ours. And if that still means something, then it's time to start acting like it. The end. Cue the tape. America the Beautiful. On to for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain. What'd you think? That one came together pretty good, I think. If you don't understand patriotism or the hatred of country at this point, after watching what we've dealt with in the political discourse of the past 10 years, I don't know, madness. That half of the country hates the country they're so desperate to destroy while living there. The other half of the country is remaining politely silent. And I don't think that's going to last forever. It's 250 years, people. I was born in 1976, 50 years ago. Like I said, 15 generations born or buried on this soil, the first of which came before it was a country. So if you want to tell me about your 1619 project and your freaking slaves and your freaking Indians, let me tell you a quick history lesson. Slaves came from Africa because African slave masters were selling them. Now, I'm not saying it's right for the white Europeans to buy them and use them, but if you don't know history, then you don't know slavery has built the world. That's how the entire economy was structured for thousands and thousands of years. Those that have much receive more. Those who have little receive nothing. And they are the slaves. And they're our masters. And that's how it was forever. But guess who changed that? America and Britain. William Wilberforce. Sorry. It was the white Christian men that you so despise that fought against slavery, that fought to end slavery, that fought to abolish slavery. Don't let their work go in vain because now there's more slavery. People just aren't aware of it. It's different. The chains are different. You're a slave to your appetite. You're a slave to your disease. You're a slave to your mindset. You're a slave to your political party. You're a slave to the propaganda. Stop being a slave. Leave the plantation. Join us in America. Build something. If you think you were tyrannized when you were a slave, or like the Indians, hey, the Indians just lived here in kumbaya peacefulness, didn't they? They just loved everybody. They had little summer festivals with each other. No. No. They slaughtered each other left and right. The strongest survived. And that was the brutality of North America. The white Europeans didn't bring the brutality. It was here. Maybe they did bring some brutality. And for that, they should be condemned. The Spaniards came wanting to build churches, but also cut off the heads of people who didn't believe. But it doesn't make them all wrong. It doesn't make them all right. But a lot of good men came and built a good country. And this country is built on principles and ideals. And if those principles and ideals are torn down, this country will go with it. And as for me, in my house, I will fight to the death to prevent that. That's patriotism. Because in my mind, I'm already dead. I have nothing. I have no fear of dying. My kids watching, they know what I mean. And what we've built and what we're handing down has got to be worth dying for. So here's to America, ladies and gentlemen. That's the state I was born in right there. Not because I'm from Washington, but because I was born on a Navy base. I am from the desert Southwest, the land of enchantment, Nuevo Mexico, con muchos gringos. So be proud of where you're from and work to make it better. If you're bitching and complaining, go somewhere else. Happy 4th, America. 250 years. Let's fucking go.